Good morning. All right, so it's Friday. Of course, that means it's Face Your Fears Friday. I'm coming on a little bit late today. It's 7:43 because of my technical difficulties. Well, there's a couple reasons. So my phone holder thing may or may not totally fall and hit the floor. It may hit the floor. Anyway, this is Travel Chat. This is a show where I use my super long commute to talk through my personal development, to work through the things that are going on in my mind and in my life. I used to just listen to audiobooks, tons and tons of personal development books because I have this 2 hours. Hey, Diane, I'm late today. I used to have like this 2 hours a day of just like being in the car, locked in here with my thoughts and not really, having anything else to do but listen to books and learn things. So it was a blessing in disguise because at first it was annoying, but then it became like the sanctuary of like protected time that I knew I would have to just sit back, drink my coffee, listen to books and learn about myself. So it started to hit home and I started like just coming up with ideas and thoughts and celebrating epiphanies and things like that. So one day I just turned the camera on and I haven't stopped doing them every day since, and it's been a real blessing in my life. It feels like a diary of some sort. Like it feels like you know what it honestly feels like? I was talking to that coach I was telling you guys about yesterday, Nick Bro, with the Power Manifesting Collective. And, I was telling him that sometimes I get frustrated because I'm so tired. My day is just full of stuff and and things that I can't move around or shuffle or condense. And so sometimes I'm really tired and I do oversleep. And so the schedule that I have in my mind is not always the schedule the way it works out. And I give myself a lot of grace. So if I do feel tired, like I'm not going to still get up at 4:30 in the morning and go through all the things. Like I'll just sleep in until like 5 or 5:15. But I was telling him that the first thing I want to cut out when I do that is meditation, because it feels like that 10 minutes of trying to sit and quiet your mind feels very difficult when you feel like you're running late. And so I'll cut out meditation. And one thing that he helped me realize is that what I'm doing in the car on the way to work with you guys is my meditation, because it does absolutely quiet my mind. Like the monkey on the trampoline that's constantly, what about this and what about that and what are you doing with this and what are you doing with that? It shuts up because I'm talking through something, I'm thinking through something. And once I get to work, I feel so refreshed. I feel clarity. See, it's slowly falling down. I feel a lot of clarity, and I think that, and he was telling me that too. He said, that's your meditation. Like, you don't have to, you can meditate in different ways, and that is your meditation. And so I felt very empowered around that idea ever since then. This was last Tuesday. And I really do feel that. Now, yesterday, I felt like there was proof of that. Like, I felt like, oh yeah, because when I was talking to you guys and I got that little thing in my head that was like, send them the goal sheet. Put the goal sheet up, link it to the video, link it somewhere in Facebook so that they can download the goal sheet and, it'll back up what you're talking about and people will be able to work on their goals. That hit. It was like, people call these intuitive messages, they call them downloads, and I never really understood that until I started having them. And that's what it feels like. It feels like suddenly there's an idea in your brain and it's fully formed. I mean, it's not like it's not confusing, it's not cryptic. I didn't hear a voice or anything like that, and I'm not psychotic, but it's just like all at once. It was like an all at once, I know what I need to do. All at once, I know what my next step is. And so yesterday, while talking to you guys, all at once, the idea was your next step is to give people this this worksheet that's basically been in my binder for a year. I want to say collecting dust, but I actually use it. I use it a lot. But it's been there where the sun don't shine, I guess. It's like there were, 6 people watching or listening yesterday, 4 or 5 or 6 people. And if each of you actually has this worksheet and you actually use it, 2 of you will probably have a huge breakthrough in your life just by doing one tiny step. Like, you'll see something small that you can do. And so it was a miracle to me. I mean, that was my epiphany from yesterday, was like, look at that. You actually are meditating because you actually are receiving messages of what to do next. So, I don't have a title for today specifically. It's Face Your Fears Friday, and my title is just fear, because there is no specific thing that I want to talk about today. There's just this conglomeration of ideas that's been happening throughout the week, and you can't wait to see the binder, my personal development planner, the one for the year. So I'm gonna digress a little bit. I mean, I don't have a title, so I'm just gonna talk about this, because it's so weird. It all goes together. Like, everything we've been talking about this whole week. The book that I just started listening to yesterday, and my personal development planner, like, all this stuff goes together, and it's coming together in such a strange way. I'm wondering if that's the next step. But yeah, the planner. So what happened was, this kind of goes into what I wanted to talk about today, is Michelle, pretty much. Like, I'm a huge fan. Everybody knows, like, everybody in SOS Club, we love Michelle, and it was so life-changing, because it was this month, last year, it was August, when I found the Ultimate Life Binder, and then I messaged Michelle, and then I started personal development. And I had always made planners. I remember being in grade school and making a planner with a ruler and all that stuff. Now, I don't make habit trackers, but I made planners. And I remember in the summertime, I would get out the TV guide, because we weren't, my mom worked, and she was a single mom. And we didn't have, like, that luxury of, like, oh, there's summer camp and we'll keep you busy all summer. You have all these activities. We didn't have any activities. Like, we were just at home. It was me and my 2 brothers. We were just at home all summer. And so, not knowing what else to do and being terribly bored. I just remember as a kid, I was always bored. And I would take the TV guide. Was it the TV guide, or I think it was the newspaper where they listed what was coming on TV. And I'd, like, get a ruler and a pen and some paper, and I'd make this whole schedule, and I'd make a planner, like, of my weekly schedule. And I put in when I was going to watch the Brady Bunch, and I put in when I was going to do this and when I was going to play that, because we had Cabbage Patch Kids. And it was just all kind of imaginative free play, right? But I planned it all out. And so I remember doing that as a little kid. So it's only natural that now, like, I found it this year, that you can actually turn that into a business. And I'm just, like, all in. My husband has no idea what's happening. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, dude, this is my life's work, right? So yeah, the TV Guide planner, that was my first planner ever. So I discovered Michelle Rohr, and I found this course, Passive Income with Printables, and she basically teaches you how to take those homemade planners that you make with pen and paper and pretty them up, put in clip art, open an Etsy shop, and make a planner, and sell it to people who are not you. And with the idea of, if you like it, and there's almost 7 billion people on the planet, somebody else probably likes it too. So my thought, and the thing that kind of quelled the fear for me, was like, okay, if I sell one, then that's that one other person on the planet who's like me. That was my fear. So the first thing I did, I had been using this planner, which actually I still really like it, but I made it in Excel. And it was a monthly planner, and it had several lines. I could put on there everything I was doing, and I could use it for my budgeting. And I had made it in Excel. It wasn't very pretty. It was very boxy and square, and not decorated at all, except for with that clip art lettering that you can do in Excel and Word. And so I finished that one because I had already started making it, and I was afraid to open up the passive income with printables course, so I just prettied up my Excel one. And then when I went to the passive income with printables course, she was like, no, you use Apple Pages. So I started using Apple Pages and fell in love with it immediately. So I recreated my planner, the personal development planner, because that's what I was doing, personal development. So there's all types of spaces for quotes, there's all types of spaces for goal setting, and all types of places for what you want your future life to look like. I mean, it's a really neat tool. And there's a weekly planner and a daily planner and a monthly planner. So it's massive. It's a gigantic document. And so I started opening the Etsy store. Well, I already had an Etsy store, and it had like homemade crafts in it. So I was repurposing my Etsy store last January to be a printable store. And I realized that the document that I had, this personal development planner, was huge, like too big for me to be my first product. And that goes back to fear also. I was just afraid of putting it out there. Even though I still use it myself. I was personally using it myself. I was afraid to put it out there. I said, let me start with something small. Let me start with my budget diary, because that one, I've got a handle on it. It's, it's small. I can just do it real fast, and I made it in January. One of my best friends, she bought it in January, and, and it was like, I made the final revision to it in July. So much for the small one. I mean, I'm probably glad I started with the small one, because it took me 7 months to make it perfect the way that I wanted it to be. And so I'm glad I didn't start with the super huge one. But so I want to talk about fear around all that, because these were huge life changes. All my fears came to light in 2018. And I often tell you that I had a midlife crisis in 2018, and I did, and all my fears came to light. It may have had a lot to do with, being a mom, having a demanding career that I've always made a priority. I think we learned very early in med school that, medicine is a jealous lover. So you can't make any other plans around medicine. Like, it has to be your number one priority, or people die, and so, or you get sued. And so, something weird. It was always my priority. I put off everything. Like, I didn't do anything social or any family commitment. So I basically just burned myself out on it. And suddenly I found myself at 41 with this financial situation, which I had a lot of fun. When I really look back on it, when I really look back on it, I regret that I didn't save more and all these things. But in all honesty, I had a lot of fun with the way that I spent. Now, it wasn't the most responsible thing in the world, but you look back on your life and you did the best you could at the time with the information that you had. So, I did the best I could with the time and the information I had. So, suddenly nothing made sense in my world anymore. It was January 2018 and nothing made sense in my world anymore. And it was just the beginning. Like, every month it was just getting more and more and more intense until about this time last year, until August of 2018. That was like the most intense it was, because I was building, I went from being completely in the dark about everything, completely in the dark, to now building more and more knowledge and more awareness of what was going on around me, more and more awareness of what I was doing, what I had gotten myself into, and it was with relationships and finances and my career, like the trifecta, like everything in my life was all of a sudden upside down, and I was questioning everything. I was just like, well, why am I doing this? And why do I do that? And why do I feel this way? And why do I tend to think this way? And when I found Michelle Rohr, I remember being so disorganized. I was extremely disorganized. And I don't mean like in a are my papers stacked neatly on my desk type of way, because they were absolutely stacked neatly on my desk. Like my I even have a picture of it, it's crazy. But my life was stacked neatly on my desk. My pens were all stacked, sitting straight next to my papers. Like I was controlling every single thing I could control, but my life was out of control. And it's so interesting because one of the girls in our group, Mia, she recommended this book on Audible by Mel Robbins called Take Control of Your Life. And the interesting thing is I'd seen this book every single time I open Audible. It's the one that they're saying, read this next, read this next, read this next. Because of what you're reading, you're going to love this. And it wasn't my time for it yet. So, the major issue with this book is the title of it. It says Take Control of Your Life. And I thought, well, that's a dumb title. Like, first of all, it seems very vague. Like, what do you mean of my life? Of my whole life? Take control of my whole life? It just sounded so cliche. I was like, whatever. But Mia was saying, like, the same thing. Like, I didn't think this was going to be a good book, but this is the best book ever. It's about coaching. It's about fear. And you got to read it. So now we're all reading this book. And it turns out to be the exact best book to read right now. So I want to recommend it to you too. If you're a person who likes to read books, this book is amazing. It's amazing. It's basically, she's got her live coaching recorded, and she's walking you through what she's walking the people through. And there's 6 people that she's walking through their different scenarios. And already from even the first few chapters, I can tell you I'm like 4 of those people. But what I'm thankful about and what I'm super grateful for is that after discovering Secret Owl Society and Passive Income with Printables and Ultimate Life Binder and Michelle Rohr, those are all a package deal in my head. After discovering all these things, and I'll link them in the comments, I am not that person anymore. It's amazing. I am not that person anymore. So when I first messaged Michelle, I was a hot mess, y'all. I was like, I had her Ultimate Life Binder, which I think is like 71 pages. I had them all spread out on my kitchen table. I had stacked them up. I was integrating her. It's like it's a planner, but it's like all about different aspects of your life, and you fill it in. It's like an activity book. It's so much fun. You fill it in, but it gives you clarity about your life. And so I had them all spread out on the table, and I had my planner that I had already created, and I was integrating them together, and I was trying to figure out what goes with what and what's the next logical page to put in here and there, and I was just mixing it all in. And it's very cute too. It's cactus and llama, so I was printing out sheets, and I was putting sheets together, and it's all pink and green and yellow and beautiful. And where we go down. If I'm not paying attention, the thing falls. I thought I fixed it. Yesterday was a good day. And so I messaged her, and I sent her a picture of my table, and I was like, I'm trying to put this whole thing together. I'm not exactly sure. And she was just like, you need to slow down. You need to slow down. You need to just chill and, work on the personal development side first. You don't even have to print out all the pages. Like, you can just print out the pages you need at the time. Because I, of course, had the massive document out, and I was mixing and mingling, and it was just a big mess. And my thinking was so disorganized that I couldn't even figure out like what I was doing. Like, I just knew I needed to make a change, but I couldn't figure out what. So in using the sheet that I gave you guys yesterday. So, okay, let me tell you about this book. So this book, so far of what I've heard, which is the first case study and half of the second, when we have a lot of fear, it'll take shape in a lot of different ways. So when we have fear about, like, say my fear, it feels like something weird is right here every time I look at the camera. My fear is of dying, and a lot of people have the same fear, especially if you have kids. There's this fear of just like dying and, you know, not having like your life's purpose fulfilled, or knowing what your life's purpose is, and just wasting your time and working all the time and getting nothing from it, and just feeling unappreciated. And it was just horrible. Like, it was a sick pit in my stomach that I had every single day. It was, you know, when I had my kids late. I had my kids, I think I was 37 when I had the twins. And they talk about the biological clock ticking and how you feel like you're running out of time. You need to, you know, hurry up and procreate. So I had that, but it wasn't an actual clock. It was more of just like social pressures. You know, you're going to run out of time. You got to do this. You're going to run out of time. It was a social pressure type thing. But when I hit this midlife crisis, I had that clock. Like, I could hear ticking in my head. I would be doing the same commute, going to work, and I would feel like every minute I'm on the road, it's a minute of my life that I can't get back. And this is before I was listening to personal development. So I was listening to like novels, and I like historical novels. So I was listening to a lot of novels about like fictionalized versions of like the time around the Civil War and things like that. So I was listening to, you know, stories like, I think it was called like with like Mrs. Lincoln or something. I forget what it's called. But I had, you know, a long chain. If I look back in my Audible, all those books were all about like history and just interesting stuff. I just want to know how people lived back then, and I just love it. Diane, I know you can relate because that's like your passion too, but I just love like hearing about how people lived, you know, in the 1800s, and what life was like, and what they thought about, and what they did, and how they dressed, and, you know, just what life was like. I'm drawn to that for some reason. And so I just felt like my life was just ticking away. I was just losing it. I was losing. I was a loser. Now, mind you, I have been a doctor for like 12 years, and by many people's accounts, even by my own, like, okay, that's success. You know, you went to school for a really long time. You got a career. You were successful at it. That was fine. But it wasn't enough for me. I was like, this cannot be it. This cannot be what life is all about. And every minute that I wasn't pursuing the thing that life was all about was a minute of my life going down the drain. And I just kept thinking, I'm going to die. Like all day, I'm going to die. And it was the weirdest, that's never happened to me before. And it was strong, and it was pervasive. It interrupted all of my thoughts. So in this book by Mel Robbins called Take Control of Your Life, which is a horrible title. It should be called like F You Fear. It is breaking down all of these feelings that I had last year, and it's explaining to me why I even had them. And there's one part where she talks about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and how our most basic needs are for like safety and shelter, and our physiologic needs like sleep and food and water and those kinds of things to survive. But as you go higher up on the needs scale, which is funny because like this week we had this horrible meeting at work, and in the meeting the guy had that hierarchy of needs pyramid, and he was trying to explain some stupid crap about our job as it related to that hierarchy of needs. And it was I mean, I was like, he personally he's a good person, he's very knowledgeable, but like it, you know, relating our job to that thing, I was just like, I'm glad I have this pyramid, however this is a crock. Anyway, I digress. So when you get to the top of that pyramid, which if you've had a long career, successful career, or you've been like a striver, you get to the top of that pyramid and it's self-actualization. And that's where I was on top of that pyramid. Now, this is how Mel Robbins explains it. Every other part of that pyramid has a sensation that your body gives you, like your feelings. And you know how I am about feelings. They are definitely our guide. But your feelings are telling you what's next. So if you need shelter, you feel cold, right? Or in the summer in Texas, you feel hot. And you're like, I got to get inside where the AC is. But if you're hungry, if that need is not being met for that you've eaten food, you will feel hungry, right? There's going to be a feeling. You feel thirsty when you're dehydrated. There's going to be a feeling in your body. I need a peppermint. There's going to be a feeling in your body that lets you know what the need is, that your body's telling you, hey, this is what you need. So when we get to the top of the pyramid and we get to self-actualization and that need to feel importance and the need to feel significance and the need to actually feel like your life is meaningful, what does that feel like? What does it feel like, right? I can tell you, I know what it feels like. It feels like you're going crazy. It feels like panic. It feels like severe anxiety. It feels like a literal clock tick, 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 ticking in your head. You're sitting in a meeting and the clock in your head is saying, this is 30 minutes of your life that you will never, ever get back. You feel like you're going to die. You feel completely crazy. And I've called it a midlife crisis because I knew immediately that's what it was. But I've had people tell me, no, it's a spiritual awakening or it's a midlife rebirth. All these things are completely appropriate because all that happened to me. It was a spiritual awakening. I was always a deeply religious person. I was always a seeker. So it was, I just wanted knowledge, and I'll get it wherever I can get it. So I was a curious person about religion. And then suddenly I just understood it all. I just got it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. And I have a friend who watches the show and sometimes a replay, but he's always like messaging me about my anger towards organized religion. we grew up in the same church, and he's like, don't say this, people won't understand. And I agree with that. And I hope I haven't been a stumbling block to anybody's like religious pursuits, because I really don't want to stand between, like if it's between like you finding God, whatever you decide your God is for you, and me saying you don't need to and then you stop, like that's not what I want. I want you to find your truth. I want you to find your God. But what I'm saying is, what I learned growing up is not what I found to be true now that I've had this like epiphany about religion and the way God thinks and the way God works. Like I know how God thinks, right? But the truth that makes sense to me is different from the truth that was like forced upon me as a child. And that's all I want to say is like my truth has opened up. It's been awakened and it's amazing. And that's not to tell you not to seek anymore. I hope that's not what the message is. I'm not saying don't look for him yourself. I'm just saying that it's so much different than if you're just relying on somebody to tell you what the truth is, you're not going to find it. You have to feel it for yourself. You have to know it for yourself. You have to be curious enough to look outside the denomination that your parents, have you in, or, whatever that you grew up with, or the way your family does it. You have to be curious enough to look outside and research for yourself. So all this stuff happened to me all of last year, and I had the most disorganized brain because it was like, and Mel Robbins even describes this like a snow globe. And so from January of 2018 until August of 2018, it was like I was just shaking up the snow globe. Like I was shaking it up. Everything that was in there was flying all around and swirling, and it was just snow everywhere. I couldn't see anything. Nothing was clear. And then finally in August, when I got the Ultimate Life Binder and I, discovered Michelle Rohr and started to really like follow her and the SOS Club. I joined the SOS Club, I think in November or December. And all the girls in the club, it was like all the snow began to settle to the bottom of the snow globe. And the next thing you know, I could see what was inside. And it was a planner. No, just kidding. It wasn't a planner. but I could see what was inside, and it was me, but it was me. I was calm. You know what I mean? Like I was not a scatterbrain. I used to call myself a squirrel brain genius. Like all of 2018, I was a squirrel brain genius. Because I had all of these ideas, and they were all like these really good ideas, but my brain was just hopping all around, and nothing was focused, and nothing was clear. And it was just like, I got to do something. I was like a squirrel, like just collecting all of my little acorns, because I was like, I got to do something or else I'm going to die. I got to do something before I die. But nothing was like a clear path. So introducing this is all coming back to this printable that I released yesterday. So introducing this free digital download that made it a lot better. I have, I'm going to take pictures of these when I get someplace stable, but I grabbed my old ones from my 2018 binder. I grabbed them because what you do is you can just print them out as many as you want to. And I have, I think, 5 of them from around this time last year when I was figuring things out, because I made a big goal and I broke it down into small steps, and I did that as much as necessary. So if my thoughts changed, if I got more clarity on something, I just made a new one. And so I kept creating these things, and they were like magic. Like, it helped me to get clear on not only the fact, this is the most important point actually. There's several points about this particular printable thing that I want you to take away. One is that, and Diane, I think this will really help you too, because just from us talking, I think this will probably be something that you like. When you're not quite sure what you want to do, and you're not quite sure what the goal entails, when you break it down this way, it makes it really clear, like, what actually is the goal. And sometimes you go, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I have one in there and I'm just like, I abandoned that because I was like, no, that's not exactly what I was thinking. But also, if you have a goal that you think is huge, like you think it's a big deal, you think it's going to be too much that you could even do, once you break it down, then you realize you only have to do like one of those little action steps a day. And once you do that, after like 3 months, you're halfway to the big goal, however big it is. You may think it's big, and once you break it down, it's actually not that big. It's just a series of small things. And so that's what I've been doing this whole year. And I always feel like I'm just at the starting line. Like, I haven't even begun yet. That's the way I feel. Like, because I have a friend we're kind of both doing things at the same time, and he's like, yeah, we're out there, we're going, and I'm like, I'm still at the starting line. Like, I haven't even, the starter pistol hasn't even gone off yet. I'm still like getting ready to get ready. And one day I was showing him my website or something, showing him Teachery and how Teachery worked. And he was blown away. He's like, you have so many videos in there. You've done so much work on this website. You've got so much content put up. And it wasn't until then that I was like, I do have a lot of content up. Like, I have made a lot of stuff this year. I've done a lot this year. I've done more this year than I've done in the last 10 years. I've done a lot of stuff this year. And it's only August. And so I'm telling you that to tell you that it doesn't feel like a big goal once you break it down and you just start working on it. No matter what it is, even if it's not starting a business. Let's just say, let's say your big goal is, travel. You want to travel around the world. Like, say your big goal is, I want to travel around the world. Then your medium-sized goals, maybe you break it down by continent, or you break it down by region or trip. Like, I'm going to take 3 different trips, and in each of these trips, I'm going to hit these 4 countries or whatever. I'm going to hit these 3 cities and spend some time there. And those trips may be spaced out throughout the next 2 or 3 years. But those are your medium-sized steps. And then your small steps that you get to are the different things you have to do to prepare for the trips. Okay, now I need to get my passport together. All right, I need to find out about ticket prices for this leg of my journey. I need to find out when I need to pack for it. I need to buy that packing checklist thing that people have on Etsy. Whatever it is, I need to take time off from work. All these things are small steps. If you do all those things, then that trip is already taken care of. Now you have to do is show up at the airport. Right? So it's just a matter of breaking it down, because what fear does is tell us to focus on the big goal. That's what fear tells us. Fear tells us to not only focus on that big goal in our head, but to blow it up. Blow it up, make it bigger and bigger and bigger. So now we're not just saying, I want to make a trip around the world. It's, I want to make a trip around the world, and oh my gosh, how am I going to afford it? And oh my gosh, how am I going to do it? And oh my gosh, who's going to watch my dog? And how am I? And what if I get kidnapped? And is the government going to pay to get me back? And what if the Taliban catches me? Or what if there's somebody on the plane who wants to blow up the plane? Like, you just start going into the spiral, and the next thing you know, 5 years have passed and you haven't even gotten your passport. You know what I mean? So Brene Brown says that shame lives in the dark, and I think it's the same thing about fear, because once you declare what you're gonna do, it starts to melt. Fear melts away. It's a total sham. It totally melts away. And there's two parts to declaring what you're going to do, in my mind, right? One is, so the sheet that I gave you, it's a written sheet. Now, some people will do this in their head and just be like, oh, I know what I need to do. I got it in my head. That crap doesn't work. I mean, I don't know. You can do it on your iPad, I guess. I'm still not a digital person yet, but I got to put pen to paper, and not pencil. Pen. I got to put pen to paper. That's why I have 5 different ones, because I didn't make it and then erase it. I made it, and then I made another one, and I made another, and I just kept refining it. And now we're here a year later, and I can go back and look at those old ones because I didn't erase them, and I could see how far I've come. So go ahead and don't be afraid to do it in pen, because you know what? It's a digital product. I gave you access that you could print it over and over and over again. You can just print it. It's yours to print. So if you need to make 20 of them, make 20 of them. But you write down, you declare it by writing it down. So you write down what your goal is. And once you see it on the paper in black and white, you may have to take a little break and go get some water. Because it's just the fact that, like, am I really doing this? Like, I know I've said this since 1992 that I was going to do this, but now I've written the crap down, and that means I got to do it. What? I mean, literally, like, I'm screaming usually when I'm writing stuff down. I'm like, am I doing this? Am I actually doing this? Ah! If that didn't wake you up, I don't know what will. But that is literally how I am approaching my goals, because they're things, like I told you, I've been making planners since I was 8 years old, and now I'm actually making planners. So I'm like, I'll finish a planner and I'll be like, did I just make a planner? Right? I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. So you write it down and it's out there. It's in front of you. You are committed to it. Then you put your thinking cap on. You don't have to do this all at once, right? You put your thinking cap on. You quiet your mind enough to know, okay, what does this entail? What are the steps that go into this big goal? And then you write out the action steps that make up those medium-sized goals. And that you've declared it. So that's one way that you get fear to dissolve, is that, hey, I put it on paper. I'm not scared of you anymore. I'm going to do it. The next way is those action items that are there. You can dissolve fear because those action items are telling you that it's not as scary as it looks. So your fear may be telling you, like, this is huge. You're never going to do it. Who do you think you are? People like you don't do things like this. But then those action items tell you to look at it in a way of like, okay, well, in my big goal is traveling around the world. So you're telling me people like me don't travel around the world. I get that. But my small action step says get your passport. Are you telling me that people like me don't get their passport? All you got to do is go to the post office, fill out the application, take the picture, and they send it to you. So you're telling me that people like me don't go to the post office? Or you're saying people like me don't take pictures? Or people like me don't fill out applications? Like, what are you telling me? Right? Like, it's ridiculous, right? When you break it down to the tiniest amount, it's like, I can do that today. I can go to the post office today and get an application for a freaking passport. I can download one on my computer and fill it out and turn it in. I can go take that picture at Walgreens, and attach it to, put it on paperclip, attach it to the application to mail that sucker in. Big stinking deal. It's not a big deal, right? But your fear will tell you, like, to resist even trying. Don't even try. You can't do this. This is a big travel around the world. Are you kidding me? You don't do that. Next thing you know, and I'm telling you, it happens so much faster than you think, because when you break it down like this, you realize, you see things on there and you go, I could do that today. I could do that right now. I can do that tomorrow. I can do that tonight after work. Next thing you know, you're doing something every single day because it's low-hanging fruit, and one thing will lead to another, And I told you before how your intuition will see that you trust it. Your intuition will say, oh, you did that? Well, let me tell you what the next thing is to do. And next thing you know, it's like 5 months later and you've already got your trip booked. Meanwhile, it was 5 years in the making and it took you 5 months to book the thing. Now you've got all your stuff, and next thing you know, you're sitting in where's a nice place I was sitting? Sitting in the capital city in Ghana, hanging out, watching the sights, watching the busyness of the day, chilling on vacation. And you're like, I never thought I would make it to Africa. And now you're in Africa. But people like you don't do things like that, right? Do not believe fear. Fear is a lie. And it comes in so many different forms. Sue you, it's like you can't experiment with things. You can't just see how it goes. And even the job that I do now, if we had the leeway to just try things without everybody being afraid, like, what if it doesn't work? Well, what if it doesn't work? It may not work. Everything doesn't have to work. So just remember that when you're setting your big goals, just remember, give yourself some grace. Fill out that big goal sheet, break it down. But make sure you have another one printed out. Even if you print it in black and white. I have some that are in black and white, some that are in color. It's beautiful. Oh, and Jairus, if you want one that doesn't have a girl on it, I did have a blank one, like no artwork on it, because I thought about you. You're like, men or not. Yeah, people look at you funny if you pull out a thing with all the girls on it. But it's for girls. But I have one with no artwork on it. But yeah, print out your sheet, fill it out, and have a backup, because guaranteed it will change. You will start off thinking, this is the way I'm going to do things, but it's not set in stone, because just by putting the intention on the paper, your inner being, your God, your universe, your ocean, whatever it is that you call it, is going to help you along the way. It's going to push you in a direction and show you a totally different way you could do it, and it'll be faster and better and more awesomer. It's just amazing. Yeah, Jairus, oh, you want to be blasted? Hey, guess what? So before you logged on, I was talking like all about you. So just kidding. No, but watch the replay, because I did mention you there, talking about religion and stuff. So thank you all for watching. Diane and Tanya, and hey, Ashley, I hope you're feeling better today. And Jairus and Millie. Hi, Millie. Yeah, so it's all about fear, and we're going to crush fear. So this is, I tell y'all all the time, like, let me know how it's going. I want to know how it's working for you. And then nobody tells me. Some people tell me. I get some response. But I really want you to download this worksheet. There's actually 3 worksheets on my website that you can use for whatever. But the one about the goals is the one that I was inspired to give you yesterday. So download it, fill it out. Let me know, even if you attach the picture of it, in the comments, which is very scary, because now other people get to know what your big gigantic plans are. But I'm going to attach pictures of mine, because then it'll help you to push you towards actually taking some of the action. So, and that's the whole point. Once you break it down, you'll see there's something small I could do today. I can do it in an hour. That'll take me 5 minutes, and then you'll head towards what it is you actually want to do. All right, gotta go to my meeting. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you back on Monday for a Magic Money Monday. And if you have any financial questions that you want me to answer, just send them to me on Facebook or wherever you talk to me, and I'll answer them on Monday. Bye.